Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the online virtual summit. My name is Fatima Omar, and I am the creative founder of Platinum Publishing and Million Stars Academy Coaching School, where we equip and empower women with guides, templates, and training in our private high-achieving community. You have been invited. On July 6th, we have an incredible 5-day challenge in our private Facebook group, the Tribe of Spiritual Entrepreneurs. And this is called Command Your Business Like a Queen, 5 days to achieving client attraction and breakthrough profits. Today, I have a wonderful guest with me. Her name is Zenobia Omar Ali. And let me tell you a little bit about this woman. Okay, she's a daughter, a sister, an educator, a mom, a committed wife. She is a real estate investor, a landlord. She's a forever lifetime learner. This woman is so dedicated as an educator. She's got various experiences when it comes to finance, tenants, maintenance issues. And as an educator, she creates so much joy and success for her students. People love her. She's certified as an insurance and a mutual fund agent. And everything she does, she leaves her mark. She creates joy and she creates education for everywhere she touches. So I am so honored to have her here. She's also a best-selling author because the book has hit bestseller already by the time you watch this. So Zenobia Omar Ali, welcome to this call and thank you for making the time to be here today.
Thank you for inviting me.
So let's really get in. We loved your chapter. It's so in-depth. You've got charts in there. You talked about your history. You talked about different kinds of experiences. What motivated you to write a chapter for Property Trendsetters?
Well, personally, I feel knowledge is power. And been through as a property investor, and I wanted to share with others. So if I could help one person be successful financially with my chapter, I would have served my purpose.
Well, you did, and you've definitely changed a lot of people's lives. So what I'm hearing you say is you love to give back, and for you, legacy is important, and that you want to help one person out there. Why is legacy so close to your heart?
It's important because, when it's important for me personally to help people and to help people better themselves. And I find that for females, sometimes it's really hard for to get a good financial literacy background and financial background. And it's great if you can network and help each other to become better and to become more knowledgeable. And why not, if someone else has some knowledge, to use it? So for me, it's important to share with others what I have learned.
You bring up a really good point, and you said that it's hard for women. Men have been trained to just make a decision, grab the bull by its horns, and they are so confident in their decisions around money. And women have been trained from a very young age to toe the line or to listen to their fathers or husbands or boyfriends or brothers. What made it different for you that, you've had such a great upbringing, your parents trusted you and taught you. What made it different for you as a woman, as a female, to go into the investing world of real estate?
Well, for me, for going into the investment world of real estate, I saw my mom, and she actually had some properties, and so I wanted to do it too, because it's nothing like gaining some capital, having the rent pay for your mortgage, and becoming more financially secure. It's really important for females to be financially secure, so they're not dependent on anybody else, but they're able to stand on their own. So that was important. I remember the first time I went for a mortgage, although I had a full-time job and I was a teacher, that I had to have a cosigner. I'm going, but I actually have a full-time job. Why do I have to have a cosigner? So my mom had a cosign for a property, my first property, and I just found it very astonishing because there were other people who were buying properties, and I found that they weren't getting cosigners, but it was very interesting because I'm going, is there a double standard here? And maybe that was about 20 years ago. Maybe there was. I know it might have changed by now, but it's really insightful to see how men and women are treated. For example, if I went into somewhere, and even when we went for computer help or something like that, they'd look at my husband, explain everything, but I'm the one who has the computer degree, and I'm the one who has those expertise. And it was odd because I found that a lot of people refer to the men first before they look at the women when they're explaining things, or when there's something with finance or things like that. It's different, and we've got to change that. And to change that, we have to empower more females, more women, to be more financially literate and to be able to stand on their own and to be able to be successful in all the endeavors. Not just, I know that it's very important, and for me it's very important for family, and it's very important for me to support mental health for everybody in our family, for food, for sustenance, and to create a very nice family atmosphere. But I feel that there's another part where let's make sure that we're all financially secure, and I'm financially secure. So for us females, we've got to look at all aspects, including financial security.
Yeah, I totally agree. I totally agree with all of that. And so, acknowledgement to your parents who raised you and taught you, and your mom. I mean, imagine back in the day, she was owning property already, that she had the clout and the know-how to help you get started and even co-sign your first mortgage. But yeah, there is definitely a double standard when it comes to males and females, and really appreciate what you're bringing. Now, in life, some of the things we learn the hard way through experience. Can you share with us what some of those challenges were for you and what you learned from them?
Yeah, especially with property management. So property management is getting the property is one thing, and then getting a tenant is another aspect. So when you're looking at getting a tenant, you can do it yourself, or you can get an expert, a real estate agent. So at the beginning, I would get a property person, real estate. I would actually do the vetting myself, and just my philosophy to go back with it before I go into the real estate. But when I'm looking at this, I want to make sure I get a right tenant. And so do I have the expertise to get the right tenant or not? So sometimes it was a hit, sometimes it was a miss. So for me, I took a hybrid approach. So I had a real estate agent, and I used that real estate agent. And then there's some people who would represent themselves as a trusty person within the community. And unfortunately, that person took some people who he didn't have the expertise to actually vet it. So when you're looking at getting someone else to get a tenant, it's best for me, and I learned it the hard way, is best to get an actual real estate agent to get your tenant. And if there's someone who's representing, as they can do property management, well, are they certified? Do they have a background? And if they don't have a background, pay the extra money and get an actual real estate agent. And that's one of the things I learned, is to make sure you get an actual real estate agent to get a proper tenant. I tried to do it myself. It was hit and miss. I wanted to get someone who was a property manager. Someone said there was a trusted person in the community. And unfortunately, that person was not as trustworthy as he said he was. So I learned that the hard way. I lost money. However, I learned from that. And so what I suggest to everybody is if you can do it yourself, you can. But if you need someone else, get someone who's actually does a real estate agent who actually does rentals, and pay that extra money and get that person to vet the person. And then you'll know that it's a bit more, it's more secure when you get that tenant.
Wow. Tough lessons, emotional hardship, financial hardship. You got wrong tenants in there, people that are claiming that they're not who they say they are. A lot of lessons. So, you know, people who are watching this, they shouldn't just think it's about, oh, I'm going to go get a property and I'm a landlord and everything's going to be peachy and wonderful after that.
Absolutely. Let me tell you another story that I've had, I would like to share with you. So I had a tenant, the person who was untrustworthy. They got their son to get there. And so what happened was, unbeknownst to me, he was putting my unit on Airbnb and making $150 to $200 a week. And so he was making
a killing pretty much on your property.
That's right. And so, oh my gosh, and I would not know that, but there was another person who I knew who was she knew him, and she was one of my other tenants. And she goes, oh, you know, he's Airbnb-ing your place. And I was saying, no, can't be. He knows that Airbnb is not tolerated by the building. Everywhere it's posted, do not Airbnb. It is breaking the condo rules. And so I went on Airbnb and I looked at the site and I looked for Queen Street or wherever I was looking, and I looked at a few searches. And then when I looked at lofts, there was a great picture of the little loft that I owned, that I was giving a really good rent, and he was making oodles of money on it. So that was a shock. So what I did was I confronted him. He signed a cease and desist, which means no more Airbnb. And so I thought that was it. Unbeknownst to myself, he was still Airbnb-ing it, because there was someone who actually emailed me to say, oh, I heard that, and they heard that this is illegal. They emailed me, and he said, I lived in your unit. I heard that there was a problem in your unit. Am I okay? And I'm going, oh my gosh, this was after the cease and desist. So he was Airbnb-ing it even after he said he wasn't. So that got me very upset. So I asked him to leave, and he didn't want to leave. And you know what? I could not get him out to leave. So that was a little surprise to me. So we tried very much, and we couldn't get him to leave. However, what he did do was he left an open flame in the patio of the loft outside. It was a nice loft with an outside patio. So what happens is, even though I told him to cease and desist, he did not. Even though the condo management, Tridel, sent him multiple letters to say cease and desist, do not Airbnb the unit, he kept continuing to do it and ignoring it, and I could not get him out. So what he did, and what technicality I did evict him, is he had a open flame on the patio of the loft, which was illegal. And the management couldn't get him out. I couldn't get him out. The cease and desist get him out. You know what got him out? Ontario Fire Marshal got him out, because it's so illegal. He got cited. I took him to landlord and tenant, and because it was a security risk to the entire condo unit, he was evicted.
Wow.
So that's my story about Airbnb. He still owes me 2 months rent.
Wow.
So if I ever see him again, I'd like to get my rent. But you know what? And he left the place a mess, but he was out. And sometimes you have to just take the losses, but at least he was out. But he was actually not only doing the Airbnb illegally, but he was actually um, violating the fire code, and that put everybody else in that condo at risk.
Definitely a horror story. I mean, you get someone from the community who pretends to be trustworthy. He brings his son in. And as a woman, we think maybe we don't know everything. Maybe this person is trustworthy. Maybe I have someone who's going to be the front man. And it just turns into a nasty business. And really, like, you've got to really teach yourself about Landlord-Tenant Act and all the other different things. Now, give us a good story. Give us an amazing story about some of your other tenants who pay well, they take care of the property, and why you're still in real estate investing and a landlord.
Okay. So for my real estate, I do more high-end condos, and that's ways that, and I usually look for two people to share it, because then the load is a bit lighter for payments. But I've had long-term tenants, and they're great. And you know, I want to make sure that they're fine. They always text me if there's a problem. One thing you have to be when you're renting your property. I find landlord such an odd term because it seems so highfalutin. I'd rather say our tenant relationship with me. They email me or text me when they have a problem, and I text them back. And it's a new phenomena here where we're texting and emailing. However, what I find is that when we are doing that, you have to be flexible. So, for example, this month, I think the first of the month was a Monday, and a lot of people, and a lot of young people, they don't have checking accounts, and so they don't have checks. So what happens is there's a lot of e-transfers. So for me, one of the things I cope, and I kind of compensate with my tenants, is I know people get paid on Thursday. So I wait for the Thursday of the first week. I wait for the Thursday of the month. And then if they don't pay by Friday, then I'll say, oh, your rent is late. However, I know, because I had some people pay on the first of the month, and then by the fourth of the month, I received the rent. Although it's 3 days late, I kind of know that some people get paid on Thursday, so they need that extra time. So one of the things you have to do when you're a landlord or when you have a ownership of a property is to be a bit flexible and kind of understanding.
Yeah, that totally makes sense. And, you know, it creates beautiful relationships between you and the people that are living in your property, because that's also their home. I want to switch a little bit to financial literacy. I know you're very passionate about this when it comes to younger people, when it comes to women. As an educator, how do you feel about financial literacy being taught in schools?
Well, I think it should be taught in schools. Unfortunately, right now, there is no financial literacy course.
I know.
Which is very worrisome. In the 80s, there was a financial literacy course called personal finance. And then they redid the curriculum and they took it out. And they took out economics from business and made it a social science, which was kind of interesting, with the Ontario Ministry of Education. Currently, right now, there's maybe 2 weeks of financial literacy, and and the culminating activity for that in grade 10 is looking at where you'd like to go for college or university and looking at finances for that. And life is a lot more than just a 2-week or 3-week segment on how to plan your university or college. There should be an actual course. Unfortunately, the Ontario curriculum has not been revised for over 10 I think it's 15 years was the last time.
Wow, that's very, very way behind.
Right. And so there, what's with the Ministry of Ontario, they just choose certain courses to revise every year. And business studies has actually been on the back burner. So the next time, I hope, the next time that the business studies curriculum gets revised, I hope there's a personal finance and it's dedicated personal finance, because there's some people are going to go to college or universities or trades. Some people might go directly to work. What we do know is everybody is going to pay taxes, and
Yeah.
everyone's going to have to be controlling of their finances. And we have to make sure we make hay while the sun shines. So we want to make sure that when you do make money, you put away a bit. And you may have to make sure you get that into that mindset where if you get money, you can spend some, but you have to save some. And it's really important to do that. And it's very important to have that mindset. And that mindset would benefit our students and the economy and the people in general better if that's is introduced to them in a course where they can apply it, they can see it, and they can experience it. And that's important. Right now, there's not as part of the curriculum.
Yes, I do agree with that. And I've got two that graduated university, one that is in university right now. And within the first week, frosh week of the first year, the biggest people that are there are credit card companies giving our children credit cards when they have no financial education. So yeah, I totally agree with you. Speaking of mindset, let's take it a little bit further. And what kind of mindset do you feel people need, women need to have in life and real estate?
Well, I think you have to have a positive attitude and a can-do mentality. It's important to know, for my example, for me, I wanted to have the security of having a job and being employed, getting those benefits, but I wanted, that's sometimes, for me, that's not enough. That doesn't make me, that didn't make me as secure as if I took my I have my employment, which is a steady income, but the mindset for me was, and I'd like to make sure others appreciate this as well, is to have passive income. So you have your income from your employment, and then you have your passive income. And one of the passive incomes that worked for me was for real estate. So you're investing, you are getting rent, any of the expenses, and the mortgage is tax deductible, and you're building equity. It's important to have a mindset of, I can do it. When I first bought my first property and they said, no, you can't buy it, you have to have a co-signer, and you're going, I'm with the Toronto Board of Education, and I'm going to be a department head, and I'm an assistant head. Why do I need a co-signer when you can see that I have a proper job? They didn't budge. So if I just said, okay, well, if I was hard-headed and I go, well, then no, because I didn't go to one bank, I went to multiple banks. And I was like, what's with this? But if I gave up, then I wouldn't be here.
That's
right. So you have to have that can-do mentality. You have to say, I want this, kind of like take myself back and get someone else to co-sign or get a loan from someone else. Do it, because at least you are progressing from just having a salary income to passive income. And that passive income will be there for years to come.
It's a step in the right direction. Exactly. Had you stopped, we wouldn't be having this conversation, and you would only have the income from one place and no passive income. But yeah, you didn't. So I want to go back a little bit to your younger self. Let's go back to young, innocent Zenobia when she was, let's say, 20, 22, 24. If you had a chance to have like a conversation with her, what would you tell her? What advice would you give her?
Okay. I'm looking at myself and I'm going, hey, if I were you, this is what I do. I would make sure I have passive income. Okay, check. I would make sure when you trust people, don't trust everybody. There's there's wolves in sheep clothing. So you got to make sure that you take a second look. Just don't, because I'm very trusting. Anybody I meet, I trust them because I think, oh, they're like me. I'm very on. No, everyone's not like that. So you've got to make sure you got to have a second look, a second opinion. Take it back before you go totally trust someone. Take a step back and think twice. So, for example, for the real estate, get a real estate agent. Sometimes it costs more. Get someone who actually does rentals for a living, but you've got to make sure that you have to have a second look. The third thing I would say is when you're looking at financial literacy, you have to start young. So I would say, oh, maybe you should start saving earlier. So I would have started saving earlier and just put it away, and I put it in a safe, not risky investment, but I put it in a safe investment for the future. And it's really important to make sure that although it looks like, oh my gosh, retirement, so it's over there and I'm here, I can do it later on. No, you know what? Just have an account just for savings, an emergency fund. And if you say, well, you know, I have a secure job, I'll get money anyways. Don't worry about, no, you know what? You've got to have that 10% savings of all your income into an emergency account or into a savings account, that you have a buffer and always have a buffer. So those are the things I'd say my younger self. And the other thing I'd say is they didn't have Facebook. They didn't have social media when I was young. And sometimes you had people and you met people. And my days, you wrote a letter or you had a phone number.
Yeah.
But that's it. Even when I applied for university, I was just saying that when I applied for university, if you didn't see the brochure or if you did not see it on paper, you didn't know that program existed.
That's right.
Now, do a search, see what else is available, see you can do mechatronics and finance or something like that, or engineering and things like that. You can see everything by your finger. When I was young, it wasn't there. So I would say, make sure you value your friends and make sure you keep in contact, because there are some people I knew and I was going, oh, I wish I remember, or I wish there's a way to keep in touch with them. And I've lost contact and I forgot things. And so now people are really, it's funny because I'm getting friends link from people I went to grade school with, and that's great because it's like, oh great, I was wondering what happened to you, and then they're contacting me, and it's great like that. But what I would say is make sure you value your friendship and make sure you keep your friends, because it's important to have, not only, remember, it's more to life than having financial security. It's always having emotional security and emotional and mental health stability, and supporting others. And so that's what I tell myself.
Wow. So make sure when you go visit your younger self, come over to my younger self and give her the same advice. That's brilliant. That's brilliant, brilliant, brilliant. So if a young person today, you know, first or second year university, they're like 19, 20 years old, they've got about, say, $6,000, $7,000 in a savings account. What should they be doing right now proactively if they want to invest in a little small condo and maybe get some friends in there who will pay rent? What would you say to that person right now? What's the best thing? What's the next best step for them?
Okay. So when I started, the threshold was not as much. Now, if you're looking at a condo in Toronto, it's a lot of money.
Yeah.
So what you'd like to do is, if you have a small amount of money and you save it, that's great. What you might want to do is look for another city that is maybe not Toronto, but maybe has maybe a university town like Waterloo or Kitchener, or another place that's available that has industries. If you look at Waterloo, if you see University of Waterloo, it has the University of Waterloo. And then if you see all around it, all the tech companies have built buildings around the University of Waterloo. So that's a great place. So buy something, if the threshold in Toronto is too high, maybe look at another city that maybe the threshold is a bit lower. And maybe you want to have, maybe, you know how you had crowdfunding? Well, maybe you'd like to pair up with someone else to purchase it. I would suggest make sure you have a lawyer to draft up the percentage of 50-50, or if you're doing it through a 3 or 4, if you're doing it with 4 people, 25% ownership each. But what happens is perhaps you can pair up with your parents, maybe a brother or sister, maybe a friend, but make sure you document everything. But it's a good time to get into the market and to invest. But if you can't do it with the amount you have, why don't you just pair up with someone and look at something a bit more affordable? And if it's not Toronto prices, there's other prices. There are other cities around that are developing and improving and becoming a grander city. Why don't you look at that place as well? But you know what? Having the security of your income plus potential of passive income for a longer period of time, that's worth it. And you know what? That's the can-do mentality. If you can't do it by yourself, do it with others, but just don't waste time and wait for too long, but wait until you have enough and then make the jump and do a can-do mentality with not only yourself, but maybe someone else who have this, you can trust, document it, and take the plunge.
Wow, that's really, really great advice. Thank you so much, Zenobia. Thank you for your time. This has been such a fantastic conversation, and I've loved every minute of it. So guys, all of Zenobia Omar Ali's information is on this page, her email address, her social media. Find her, work with her. The woman is a wealth of information. She's a financial literacy coach. She helps women. You heard it from the woman herself. And in the meantime, go to Facebook, the Tribe of Spiritual Entrepreneurs. On July 6th, we're starting our 5-day challenge, Command Your Business Like a Queen. 5 days to achieve client attraction and breakthrough profits. Zenobia, it's been such a pleasure, and thank you again for your time.
Thank you for the opportunity.
Talk to you guys later.
Take care. Bye-bye.